Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Jamie, homeschool mom of six and editor at homeschool.com. And I'm here to welcome you to our Homeschooling and Loving It podcast, where we chat about homeschooling and parenting and everything in between. Over the last few months, we've been interviewing homeschool experts, which are really just homeschool moms and dads, just like you and I, who've been there and done that and love to help other homeschool families who are in the middle of it. Plus, we want to encourage you to visit these great resources, the resources that our guests bring to our show, as well as our own resources at homeschool.com. So before we get started, I want to introduce our guest today. I'm super excited to have Lee Giles from Easy Peasy Homeschooling with us today. Lee, it's good to have you.
Thank you.
Yay. So Lee has been a friend of homeschool.com for a while. She did a previous interview with our founder, Rebecca Kokendorfer, several years ago. I couldn't quite pinpoint when.
It was a while ago.
Yeah. So we're really delighted to have her back again with us. And Lee, before we kind of jump into whatever's on your heart today, would you share just a little bit about yourself and how you got into helping homeschoolers?
Well, my name's Lee Giles. I'm also a mother of six. I have one daughter who's my oldest and five boys, and the youngest is 8. So although I have, college age, I still have, elementary school as well. We're still in the middle of it for a long time to come. I always say have a girl first. That's my advice. If you want my advice, they're so helpful to have around.
I agree.
So I am the creator of Easy Peasy All-in-One Homeschool. I used to say, before that existed, I always say I homeschooled from birth. Like, it was always my plan to homeschool, always what I wanted to do. When I was in high school, I asked my parents to homeschool me, and they said, no way. I was too stubborn. There was no way they were going to deal with me trying to homeschool me. So I don't know, but it was always my intention. And this is me, who I am. So my daughter was like a baby, and I'm like writing lesson plans for when she turns 2, I'm going to start teaching her the alphabet, And by the time she was 2, she already knew the alphabet because she was very verbal, young, and she just asked questions, and she was my only one at that point. So we sat and she loved to be read to. We read for hours all the time. And, what's that letter? What's that letter? And she knew them all by the time I got there, and just throw out my plan. And so that was the first time I learned, that learning happens just in life. I don't have to have this all, planned out curriculum, follow, this is how you learn the alphabet. Right. Learning just happens as you live together. That's a good homeschool lesson to learn that we all get to at some point, that homeschooling is more than just following the lesson plans. So I was always making my own materials like that. We also didn't have a lot of money. We lived in someone's converted garage at that point. My husband was in seminary and working, so there was one of those situations. So, and I was home. We didn't have a lot of money, so I was always had been making my own materials just for that reason. And also it's fun for me. Both my parents were teachers. I played teacher growing up. This was something I was comfortable with and enjoyed doing. So we, at that point, when she was 2 and I had another new baby, we went overseas as missionaries, and we, I thought we would be back on furlough before my daughter was, we're going to have 3 years. My daughter's going to be 5, and then we'd come back and I'd get a curriculum. Well, here she was really verbal, saying, teach me to read, teach me to read. I was like, can you wait? She just kept nagging me until I started making materials to teach her to read. So, that's all started just very naturally being asked, just from her, teaching me. I started making little PowerPoints with phonics and putting words together. I just started making different materials for her because she wanted to learn to read, and she learned to read when she was 2. That's her. She's not a math person, but she's a reader. They're all different, And so, all that just sort of came about. And then eventually, just being overseas, getting books overseas, it's very hard. If you've flown, you know, there's a weight limit on your suitcases, and books are really heavy. And it was this whole game of putting books in every single suitcase and trying to get the weight right. Trying to, how am I gonna, and it got really hard. And if you know homeschoolers, the books tend to pile up and up and up and up and up, and you get another bookcase. And it just got hard, and that's how I got started with. That's everyone.
Mm-hmm.
When we left one country, we donated 3 bookcases of books of our homeschooling novels and stuff to a school. You can't take it. You can't. We just out of necessity. This just sort of grew really naturally. But I had to. That's how I got started with reading online, giving my kids online books to read, doing more things online. It's just out of necessity, out of that. And I started, and just different things converging of starting to work online. And at this point, my husband wasn't working at all. This story is on our site, and I talk in some different places. I have this whole story, but he left his work, and we just lived by miracle for like a year and a half. We just didn't have any income. And so it was during this time, so we really just don't have a lot of money. I'm not just gonna buy lots of stuff. And I remember ordering just a digital download of some homeschool material. And then I saw it, and I was like, I could make this myself. And I was just kind of beating myself, like, why did I spend the money on this? I could do this. And that's when I started making lap books, if you know the term. So there's these hands-on things. They're sort of like glorified worksheets where you get to cut and paste and fold paper instead of just filling in the answers.
Yeah, kids love it.
So I started making those, and we were overseas. So we had a little family website for the grandparents to see pictures of the kids and write about what we were doing. So I put pictures of their schoolwork online, and Google alerts would tell people that there's a new lap book mention online. I started getting these random stranger people showing up on my family thing for just the grandparents. And I thought that felt really weird to me. It's just pictures of my kids, and it was just supposed to be for family. So I started a homeschool website where I posted the lap books. And, there's not just, this easy peasy, if you know what it is. It's a really big, huge thing right now, but this is how it started. It was nothing like this plan of, I'm going to create this business. It was nothing like that at all. The Lord just brought it about, it's just living each day. It just happened, which is the fun kind of, I like when the Lord leads that way, when it just kind of happens. So, and then you're not trying to make it happen, which is a better place to live out of. Anyway, so I started the homeschool just website, and I gave away we made lap book stuff, and I put it up there for free for people to download. So I got this little following of 100 people, which seemed huge at the time, Yeah. Now it's 100,000 or whatever, But it seemed, I was just like, oh, these people, and to me it was really fun. And I appreciate all the free stuff I could find online at that point. I appreciated that, and you want to offer it to other people as well. So, and I started organizing just the free stuff I found just to be able to use for my kids. I'm an organizer. My gift, okay, my thing that I say is that everyone has a genius. Every kid has a genius in them. Every kid's a genius in some way, which is why I love homeschooling, because that kid can go to school and feel stupid, can't do anything because they're not a good reader and they just fall behind, or whatever, or I'm not good at math, or whatever. You get these stereotypes, you get these things in your head, whatever. You can miss getting to excel in that special thing, so we can talk more about that. But my little genius is outlines. I write outlines. This is my gift that God gave me to give back to the world. I just think God plants something in everyone that you're just born with. I mean, I think we should look at great athletes and great singers and just glorify God. Like, look how he made people. It's amazing. I think he should get glory for anyone who can do something amazing, because he's the originator of any of that. But I write outlines. That's what I do. I can even remember my first outline when I was 10. Like, I love that outline. Like, I can still remember it. And it wasn't until years into Easy Peasy, I was like, oh, I write outline. This is what I do. Like, I outline information. Like, it wasn't something I knew and then like, oh, this is what I do, so I'm going to do it. It was like years later, I was like, oh, looking back, oh, I see, this is what I do. So back in those early days, I was organizing. I was putting into outlines. Here's language arts materials, and then divided into now parts of speech, and then nouns. I had it all organized into outlines so I could find the lesson I wanted. I bookmarked pages for my kids on Monday. I tagged them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I bookmarked them so they know what page to go to for their lesson that day. And I'd write out assignments for them. And then every weekend I'd throw out the assignments, I'd write new ones, and I'd re-bookmark Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I thought, I'm like throwing away all these lessons I'm creating. Yeah. And that was the birth of Easy Peasy. Because I was like, I'm going to save these lessons. I have other kids that are going to, grow up and they're going to be this age and they're going to need these same lessons. So that was the start of it. Just making my life easier. Just trying to make my life easier. I'm going to save these lessons. And that's like really it. So I used to always say I homeschool easy. That's what I used to say before Easy Peasy started. That's probably where the name came from. Yeah. But I used to, when people would, ask, well, how do you do it? What method, people ask, what method? Are you this? Are you that? I like to be nothing. I don't like being called by a label. I used to say, well, I homeschool easy. For most kids, when they move to Easy Peasy, it gets easier, days get shorter, it gets more fun. For my kids, the days got longer and harder because I had this listen to this. People love this. When people are really stressed out, I recommend this to them. I had our readings that we had, the books that we had with us, and I organized them on a shelf in an order. I had the science books and the history books. And then, so you read. So you read English and math, 2 subjects. You read, but it was history or science, kind of half the year history, half the year science. You read a book, and then you write something, they're either copying or responding or finding the nouns or whatever. I just would make up something on the fly. This is what you're going to write today, and that was your language arts. And so it's kind of like all wrapped up together. And then they did their math. So I just kept it really simple in those early days. And then when I wrote the lessons online, I had to divide up the subjects. I couldn't figure out how to make that work with all the different ages and stuff, and had to get divided up. But yeah, if I have an approach, it's just keep it simple, keep it easy, keep it short and sweet. We say hit the basics and do them well, then give your kids time and space to do the thing they love to do. So my really simple example is my daughter, who's my oldest, because she's an artist. So it's just really easy with her because, she did her school. She obviously was a great reader. She graduated high school probably like a 7th grade math level of what she was really had, because I didn't see the point in her being a C student through algebra, geometry, whatever, never getting it. She did math all the time. She did math every day. It wasn't that we only did that many years of math. We did math every day, but that was how she moved forward. But now she's a senior in college and she's an A+ GPA. And you hate to say it doesn't really, you might need it later, but she has her business math, and now she's, she sells her artwork, she pays taxes, she has to do these types of things, and she's learned what she's needed to learn along the way. But what homeschooling gave her was that time. She could spend 6 hours a day doing artwork. And, when she was 13, she went to we were in America, and she went to a summer program for high school students. So it was mostly juniors kind of checking out the college. And then it was this 13-year-old, and they're like, she has the most experience of anyone here, because she just had the time to put into it. and not everyone knows what they love to do, that, it's not always that simple. But I, like to encourage parents to give your kids the time and space and try to relax. And, if they spend 3 hours building Legos, it's trust that there can be a purpose even in that. And it's not necessarily better spent doing another course, doing another activity, doing whatever else that isn't going to matter, and that it's not going to matter in the end.
I feel like we tend to, especially in America, we have a hard time breaking free from that. Everything has to fit in that traditional mindset, but you're so right. Absolutely. Love that.
Well, if I can take this moment to bring up the original interview, was called How to Take Your Homeschool from Ordinary to Extraordinary. So if I were to define that, I would say ordinary would be like what's usual, right? And so extraordinary is what's outside of usual. So the usual is, what everyone else is doing, right? So it's trying to take standards and make sure you check off each one at home, or you get the curriculum that everyone says they love and you try and do it and try and do it all and just follow the directions and, stress yourself out and, whatever. And you don't like homeschooling because you're doing this thing that was made for someone else. It wasn't made for you. Exactly. So I think the extraordinary, the outside of the usual, is you making it your own, making it for yourself. And the way I talk about that is to say that homeschooling is an extension of parenting, right? Everyone parents a different way. Every family has its own culture. So there's like just that alone, if you can understand what culture is and how every family is different, there's no way that one thing is for everybody. It just can't exist. It doesn't exist. So the more you can recognize your choices in parenting, and if you can make those choices even in parenting and it overflows into homeschool, if you can make those choices of love for God, love for your children, then that's the right direction. If you're making these choices because this is what they say I need to do, if you're making these choices because this is called rigorous and I need to prove that I hate the word rigorous.
Yeah.
This buzzword drives me crazy. We have a rigorous program. I'd rather have peace and joy than rigor in my homeschool.
Yes.
And I need to get my kid into this college, or we have to have that scholarship, or so they're like, 8, and you're like, drill them and all this stuff, trying to push them because you have decided this outcome that has to be, instead of walking by faith and saying, Lord, this is your child, you know their future, I don't. We want to walk your steps. We want to end up where you want us. Because if you put him in his hands, he's going to get him there. And you don't want it to be a bumpy ride. You'd rather just go with them along the way instead of push your kids in this direction, then he has to get them over here.
And that ties in with what you said about them being experts in certain areas and just feeding those strengths in that area that they're so good at or passionate about. Yes, I love that.
And it takes some faith. There was, it might have been La La Land or something, won the Oscar. There's been an article. I remember that the best music or whatever. And the guy got up with his award and thanked his mom for letting him quit soccer to be in a musical. And thanked all the parents out there who let their kids, go, sing in the rain, if they wanted to. Yeah. And I just really love that because you have to let go, right? Let go of, I don't know, the whole putting your kids in sports or whatever, all these things that
preconceived ideas.
These preconceived ideas of what they need or what's good for them. And let them, I don't want to get into like cliche stuff, I'm fine who they are or whatever, but God created them to be a unique individual and you want them to be that who they were created to be. You want them to be that person. So you don't want, if you're honest, hopefully deep down, you don't want them to become, you know, this Harvard graduate, if that's just not who they are, like, my daughter did get the full scholarship, yeah, they'd be miserable, right? The people who drop out of medical school or become a doctor and then quit to become a comedian, whatever, like, parents pushed them one way and, they had to go through that rough patch, right, to get it the other direction. It happens a lot. But homeschooling offers you an amazing opportunity to let your kids have that time when they're young. It's not as risky. They're not in their 20s off, having to sleep in someone's couch because they can't afford rent because they're trying to do this new thing. That was what they really wanted all along. But let them do it now. So like my next one after my daughter, she got the full scholarship, but it was, based on her artwork, and she had a lot of experience, and she was really, really good. She was only 16 and she got a full scholarship, but God gave her the gift, and she put in the hard work. She spent lots of time on it, but she did that because she loved it. So you put in the hours, and you put in enough hours multiplied by the talent, and it gets really, really good. Like the next child, his thing is 3D modeling on the computer. He does. And he, it's kind of like he's in that, he was going to apply for college, and then all this stuff hit, and he's like, I don't want to do I don't want to do online school. We just kind of put a pause, and now he's like, do I need, now he's like hemming and hawing about going to college because he's started working, he started getting jobs doing this thing that he loves. So he has 1 year complete just from doing credits little by little. So for right now, he's just doing that, getting 1 year of college complete. 1 year of college, he has 24 credits or something already. Just from doing things through high school one at a time. And so he's continuing doing that. But like, I like giving him the opportunity to try to build up a business now, from my basement, like, instead of him being off on his own or with the family and then struggling, trying to, it'd be a lot harder, and he may have to give up on it. Whereas now is a great time if you can give them the time and space. He got a full-time job offer that was really good, and he turned it down. We're like, but we're trying to like trust him because he takes part-time contract work. For small things. So he has income coming in, and then he makes things and sells, like people buy his plants or his trees that he made, or tools for building cities. He has stuff that he makes and he sells. He has an income from it. But how awesome that he's still a teenager, and he's starting to build up this business, and he's built up a reputation to the point where he's getting unsolicited job offers. And I know he can support a family if he wanted to. He could take one of those jobs, and but you had to give him that time to do that. Like, not get off the computer, go work at the local store or whatever, earn start earning some money. Like, there's other things we could have pushed him towards. But you kind of have to trust him, trust his relationship with the Lord, that the Lord can redirect him. But I think they're both really successful stories in my mind. Maybe you don't think it is, but in my mind, I think they've both been really successful. We'll see when the other kids grow up, but it takes some faith to let go, to let them sing, let them be in the musicals and the plays, and you think they can't earn a living that way, but if they can put in the time and effort, you can become really great at anything. There are people who build Legos for a living. Now, it's not a normal job that you can just be like, well, I'm going to go get that job. But if you have that passion and that love, and you spent those extra hours that other people didn't spend, you can become really good at something. Or being a whitewater rafting guide. There's so many jobs out there, so many unique jobs that just preparing, here's our, the courses that everyone takes and finishes, and that prepares you for work, for the world, whatever. Like, it's not true. It's just kind of a fake reality. Excuse me.
So I know was writing something yesterday, and this kind of came to mind, that whole idea of encouraging our children in those things that they really, really have an interest in. But then what do you do if they have no talent or actually no gifts in that area? So
Yeah,
that's a kind of a tight line to walk.
It
You
is.
want to encourage, but yet, and then I thought at some point, super high interest would almost trump that lack of gift or natural talent.
Hard work will trump talent any day, because someone with talent who's not the hard worker, they plateau. They can only go so far, but somebody who's willing to work hard will be recognized. Absolutely. Even if they don't get to where they had dreamed, there's a place for anyone who's willing to work hard. Their gift. And people recognize that. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
I appreciate what you said today about trusting your children and trusting what God is doing with your child. And I just want to share that I'm kind of in that place right now, sort of struggling with my older children. And that was so helpful to me, I'm sure to other homeschool moms and dads that are listening as well. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I have one child that says, when you have these older siblings that are really good at what they do, there's a younger one that says, well, I don't have anything special. I have one kid that says that I don't have anything special. I don't have anything that I do. He said. And I tell him his special gift is love. He's our sweetheart, which to me, the Bible says it's the greatest gift, right? It's harder to convince him of that, but his heart is to become a missionary. And I'm like, that's exactly what you need to be. You need to love others. That's exactly your job description if that's what you're going to do. And he works on learning the language of the country he wants to go to. There's just, and he does his academics. Everyone does their school. Everyone's doing their basic school. We're not abandoning school so we can just, draw all the time. We're just playing on the computer all the time. We're still you do school, we do all the basics. Easy Peasy tries to keep it short. When people first start, they're just like, we finished school in like an hour. Is that okay? For the little kids, we finished in under 2 hours today. Is that okay? Like, did you do it? Then yes, it's okay. That's how long it took you. They have all their basics and we try and do them well. Easy Peasy, it's called Easy Peasy, but it's easy for the parents, it goes up through calculus, they read Shakespeare, they're doing all that stuff. It's all in there. It's not like it's, some kind of sham thing because we really just are going to sing in the rain all day. It's a real school and a real education.
And again, it's that preconceived idea that it has to take 8 hours to educate a child every day, and that's just not so.
It doesn't. We try. The longest is probably 4 to 6 hours for high schoolers, depending on what courses they're taking, how many they're taking. Once my kids get to high school, I let them adapt school to themselves more. I think it helps with the motivation for school at that age, where it gets to be harder and not as much all the games and stuff that the younger kids get to do, more intense schooling. I let them kind of form it around themselves. Like my daughter loved to read. So, can I take an extra English class? Sure. She loves the old language. She loves reading the old books. She reads stuff I don't understand. Yeah, I'm like, here, she loved history. She took the Easy Peasy history course. But for science, she's like, I'm not really interested. So we designed our own science class. So she was an artist. So she did anatomy. So she spent all year drawing bones and muscles, She got to college and like, she's really good at drawing. I'm like, well, she spent a year drawing muscles and bones. She knows she learned the names and stuff like you would in an anatomy class. But it was, served her purpose. So she cared more about it. She did light 1 year for science. One of her specialties in her art is light. People look behind it like this is a light bulb because it looks like it's glowing. Wow. So she learned all about light and read books of light. I had her write a 10-page paper about light by the end of the year. Just simple things like that. But because it was her choice, there was a motivation there, and it meant something to her as opposed to just, getting done each day.
Right. And it aligned with her interest. I mean, she was able to use her study on light in art. How lovely. Perfect.
So anytime a kid is disengaging, not caring about the schoolwork, we have a conversation about, well, is there something that you do want to say? And I can't come up with anything, then too bad, you have to just do your schoolwork. But if there is something they really want to do, like, well, I want to keep, my one son for a while got really interested in World War II, but the unit ends, and he's like, well, can I keep, reading books on this or whatever? Sure. If you want to do that, that's great. Watch videos, read books, let's put together something at the end, write me something, or, something, make them show, and get involved. He made a video of what he learned and stuff. So I don't know, that's that whole extraordinary, right? Like allowing yourself to not do what you're supposed to do. Because who said that to you? Probably my most popular blog post ever was entitled, "Is it enough?" We hear that mostly. Every parent feels it. I've felt it. Everyone has the insecurity, and that's why we go to that. Well, this is what other people are doing. This is, well, what are you using or whatever? Because we have those insecurities, and it's a fear, right? And we're told, do not be afraid. It's sin for us to be afraid. So we need to run away from those insecurities. If we're feeling them, we cannot make our decisions based on them. That's something we need to turn away from. So if you're feeling that, know that, wait, this is whatever this is drawing me to, it's not the right thing, because we're supposed to live by faith. So that's the opposite, right? Faith and love, they're the opposite of fear. Maybe love's the opposite of fear. You love your kids. No one else loves them as much as you do. It's not like you don't care about your kids, so letting someone else say, this is what you should be doing with your kids. They don't love your kids as much as you do. They're not the ones who know them. You know them, and you love them. So you can't, take that in from anywhere else. And we don't like that, right? America's horrible with this. The church is horrible with this, right? We just want the how-to book. We just want to follow the plan. I mean, churches do it. I mean, Christians do it, and they should know better. We get the how to be a mom, how to be a dad, how to be a husband, how to be a wife, and people, they make millions and millions of dollars on us just not being willing to turn to Jesus, trust our relationship with him, and let him speak to us. I mean, it's so simple, it's free. Why don't we do that? Why do we turn to all these things and instead of turning to Jesus? And it's just that simple faith which can free you from all of that, all of this, all of the burden of what you're supposed to be doing. But yeah, that isn't enough, and that's just, it's a fear. It can be internal, just, my doing right by them. Are they going to be able to get a job? Are they going to get into college or whatever? It can be external, the grandparents saying, how come he can't read yet? How come, whatever. So it comes from different directions, but I mean, it's just like parenting, right? Back to the same point. Well, do they get to decide for you that, movie night, that's bad. You shouldn't have that for your family. Why are you like glorifying movies in your home? People can judge you in any sort of way. People have lots of ways to judge you. Would you let them do that for, oh, you let your kids drink soda on their birthday? Whatever. People, whatever. And if you can get beyond that in your parenting, well, this is what we decided is good for our family. Just whatever it is, and it's different for everyone. A little, in some ways, it has to be different for everyone. The homeschooling should look the same. It should be the same thing. You should be able to break into like, well, this is how our family does it, and we should all accept that in each other. We shouldn't be trying to copy each other. We should celebrate that in each other. Homeschool families should really be about that, instead of being like, oh, I use this, and trying to get other people to use what you have just to validate yourself and your choices, right? It's not, we don't help each other. That's all our advice. We're not always helping each other.
And sometimes how we come across can be almost like, well, if, this is what I use, and it almost makes the person we're speaking to feel little, feel like maybe they're not doing enough. So I think we need to be conscious of that, even when we're sharing. Now, I love it when someone shares something new with me, or something really great that they found. But I think being conscious of how we share that, and not making our homeschool peers feel like they're less than, because like you said, we need to be unique. Every child is unique. Every family is unique. And embracing that uniqueness is, like you said, embracing what our Creator has given us. He's created us uniquely. He's created our family units uniquely. And I don't know, I'm all about that too. I see so many moms that and dads that see what other people are doing, and they let it affect the choices that they make for their own children.
A good example of that is all the kids taking Latin. Like, if your kid's not going to be a lawyer, like, why are we studying Latin, everybody? Like, I don't, trends, the word rigorous, whatever. Like, it's just,
we've already said that.
Yeah, we need to think about why we're making decisions. But you do that with parenting too. And if you have parenting books that have, get rid of all of it, like, turn back, just read your Bible and talk to Jesus. Everyone's gotten caught in it at some point. And that's the only reason we can talk about it, because we've all got caught up in it, in whatever way, for a long time or a short time, or even just thinking about it, whatever, and letting it burden you for a while. In some way, all of us have been there and done that on the wrong side.
Your Latin example was perfect. I felt like I had to teach Latin for a few years, and then I realized it was like, my kids hate this. What am I doing? So I just stopped. Like, no.
My husband's a linguist, so he's like, it's a dead language. Like, no one speaks this. Like, this is not a useful language. In our family, that's how it is in our family.
Yeah.
For some kids, it's part of their future. It's great for them. It's nothing bad about any of it, right? There's nothing bad with any of it. Let your kid get a full scholarship to Harvard. That's awesome. Nothing's wrong with any goal. But let it be authentic. Not something impressed on. Let God choose your child's future. And we don't necessarily know, right? But what do I need to do today, right? What's the next thing we should do? Let's do that. And not plan out our future so much.
So as we wrap up for today, because I know you probably have lots to do.
I'll probably take a nap.
Can you share with us, if we're a new homeschooler and we want to try to start using Easy Peasy All-in-One, what's the first step that we would take to get started?
So All-in-One Homeschool, it's allinonehomeschool.com is the main site. And kind of branches from there, but it's called All-in-One Homeschool because it's everything. Like, the whole thing is designed to just be easy for you, all planned out, ready to go. We say whether you're lacking the time, money, or know-how, we're there to help you do this. There's single working moms homeschooling. We can help them do that. It's possible. Homeschooling is possible. We want to let people know homeschooling is possible. It's a free resource. It's a free site. All the resources are free. All the lessons are free. All the resources that we link to are free. And we really stay away from that. Here's another great resource. Here's another great resource. Here's another great resource. Because it's just a burden to families. So we're a community. There's 100 Facebook groups. We're just this community of people who will encourage you to adapt it, to make it your own, to let it be enough. So there's a whole community there to help you get started. If you've seen the site before and haven't been back in the last a couple years, we've changed it, and there's a new thing called My EP Assignments that instead of just having all the lessons, used to have a page with 180 lessons on it. Now that you can choose your courses that you want for each child, and it just delivers them that lesson for each course for that day, just all together on a page. Just always working on it to try and make it easier for families. So anyway, the first thing you'd probably want to do after poking around is there's a placement guide, there's a placement test, because every curriculum's different, right? Don't start in 3rd grade because your child's in 3rd grade. They could be all different levels for different things, and every curriculum's different. So it doesn't mean your child's only in 2nd grade reading, just means in this curriculum, this would be a really great spot for them to start so they feel successful, and then you build from there. That's what my guideline for placing a child is. Find where they're successful and then move on from there. There's no point otherwise in homeschooling. Every day you can get 100, right? We can always be successful every day. So that's the way to do it. And then there's links to the sites called My EP Assignments, and you can just use it as a guest, but eventually you'll probably want to just create an account, which you can do for free, of course, and set up, choose your courses for your child. It can choose for you. You can just click grade level, and it'll say this is what's typical, but we really have everywhere the links to the placement. Encourage you to just relax and find what's best for your child instead of trying to find, set this grid line of this is where my kid's supposed to be. So that's how we'd encourage you to get started. And it's all in one because it's everything. It's music, it's art, it's PE, health, it's all there. Try to make it simple so you don't have to supplement with lots of stuff. And it's a great way to get started just because it's free, you're not investing in anything and then feel like you have to use it because you spent all this money on it. Mm-hmm. It's eclectic. So sometimes you're using a textbook and sometimes you're watching videos, and sometimes you're doing hands-on projects, and some places there's units, and then some places, you're doing narration, or there's all these different techniques and types of learning. So you can use it and try out different things and say, well, we really like the videos, or we really like what's a textbook. We really like that structure. We just want to be able to read. We don't like all the distraction of the other stuff. You're gonna, or we really like the hands-on projects and the units, and we want to, find something that has a unit study. So it's just an exposure to lots of different things that then you can see for your family what works for your child. For each child, it can be different. So it's just a great place to just get started, get your feet wet. And because there's such a supportive community, you can find that encouragement along the way.
Yes, I love it.
I won't say this is the way you have to do it.
Right. And see that everything you said lines up even with the easy peasy online curriculum, because it's pick and choose, do what works best for you. I love that. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Lee. We've had a great chat. I feel like you've encouraged me personally, and I'm sure that you will be encouraging our listeners as well. And I want to thank our listeners for joining us today, and join us in the future for our next Homeschooling and Loving It podcast. Thank you.